time for a world tour episode. Anyways, hello everybody, it's Deanspillabean back on your screen on Satisfactory, playing on the 20x20 world. And like I said, this is going to be a world tour of all of the crazy stuff that I got myself into in this in this giant factory. So first off, what even is the 20x20 world exactly? Well, the main thing is I basically can only construct things, manufacture, smelt, whatever, within a 20x20 foundation grid. With the exception of packagers, mostly because I kind of want to actually use packagers. But basically, you look around my entire facility, there's a giant red square. Everything inside of that square I can do actual construction with. Everything else... it's very loud. Everything else outside of it I can't actually use construction for. Again, except for packagers. And I think that's like the only exception. Everything else needs to be within the square. And there's no height limit either, so I can just I can just keep going up. It gets a little crazy. I'm gonna go into more details on each of the floors in a bit. I just want to show like a brief overview. Okay. And also, in the very middle is a space elevator, and I am terrified every day that I play on this that I might accidentally destroy it, and then I'll never be able to place it back down, so hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm fine. And if you notice at the start of the episode, I have like a cute little montage of various states that my factory was in, where it started out on this ground floor, and then it just got taller and taller and taller and taller, which is pretty cool. In terms of aesthetics, obviously it's kind of boxy, but eventually, whenever I get a lot of stuff figured out, I'm going to add some more details. Kind of like how I have this rail system going in. I'll show my train system as well. So where all of my power is at the moment is just in the basement, and it's being fueled by a bunch of fuel generators, getting about 6,675 megawatts. Yes, that is all that I am producing at the moment, even though I am consuming about 10,000. Only reason I'm not at a constant risk of power outages is because I have like 600 power storage units up here. In total, it stores about 62,000 megawatts, which is more than enough to power whatever sections of my factory that I want. And I also have a lot of power switches all over the place. That way I can turn on huge areas of my base or turn them off whenever I'm not needing them. So this is my aluminum factory. I'll go over it in a bit, but as you can see, nothing's moving. Coal's going nowhere, bauxite's going nowhere. If I pull this lever, all of it starts working. All the scrap gets made, coal gets sent off, water gets recycled elsewhere, blah blah yada yada. And if we look at the power, it went from 10,000 to 13,000. And I think it's going to go up even more the more stuff gets repowered. However, just to save energy, I turn off sections that I'm not using. And whenever I really want to get power again, I just turn off everything. And as for where I'm getting the fuel for all of the power generators, it's coming from all of these overclocked refineries. We get a bunch of oil, fuel, gets polyester that gets sent off into waste, and then it's sent off to fuel all of my fuel generators. And I get all of the oil from this train station that's whole purpose is to just transport oil. And I'll talk about this massive structure in a bit. This was like one of my most recent builds. But before that, if we kind of get further out here, you'll notice there's a train station with some oil pumps pumping oil into them. So typically the train just comes to and from my base to get oil from the area, sent off, refined, whatever. It is stuck in an endless cycle where it repeatedly unloads and reloads the same amount of cargo forever. I basically get enough oil from just those few nodes overclocked that I don't really need to worry about oil at the moment. Just looking at my base from here, goodness. It's just craziness. Before we get any further, there's also my coal station here. that all it does is just accumulate tons of coal. So much that I need like 2 stations. 15,500 is not my incoming rate. I'm pretty certain of that. I don't know what it is, but there was like a weird data bug where at some point this like showed like millions coming in, which was wrong. I don't know what the exact coal input is, but it's enough to fill up Mark V conveyor belts, but they're not being used the whole time. So I don't know. I've also got this storage depot where it just has a bunch of random stuff that I need. This was actually my old storage facility. I got a new one up there behind the glass. But basically, I have a bunch of parts of my factory to automatically bring a lot of key essential parts to the storage containers. So I can just get motors, rotors, stators, whatever else I feel like putting in. Although I think for the motors, I'm making just enough motors to where I can't really get much out of these, so I need to make some kind of factory just to make more of those. And also because of my rulings, it's really hard to get energy production in here because energy production takes up a whole floor. And if I'm not careful, I might cause some... As much as I want to put generators around this, it gets really cramped. So at some point, I'm not sure when, I'm gonna get into nuclear power. I have like the research for it, and I can make the parts for it as well. I just need to dedicate a whole episode to getting those up and running. So what else are we making exactly? Well, on the basement floor, there's a refined plate factory, and you look at this, and then look at my channel banner, it's the same thing. This is one of my first automated things in my world, and it's kind of obsolete right now, but I kind of like it. It just looks very satisfying, so I just keep it around pretty much. The whole production actually gets its iron from this one of my many item highways, which the whole purpose of one of these is it's a massive conveyor belt highway basically. There's just a lot of iron, coal, sulfur, copper, whatever, on those conveyor belts just being sent across from various nodes across the desert all the way to my factory in order to get refined plates. And then when the refined plates get sent off into this massive conveyor belt line that goes around the, I guess, main storage stuff, and then that gets distributed into storage, that kind of stuff. Other cool things on this level besides the power generators is this container manufacturing, where it takes just a little bit of oil to make a little bit of plastic to make a few containers. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it accumulates over time, there it is, to get like tons of these things. And I think where I'm sending this off to is pretty full on containers. So, just kind of skipping ahead a bit, we're on my grid at the moment. This is what I'm calling it. The grid is a massive grid of operations that just has... it's a massive grid. What else would it be? Anyways, the containers get sent off to these train platforms. It's containers. Checking the map real quick. The trains then go across this mountain range to get to a bunch of water stations, where it gets packaged over there and then sent off to these trains platforms, which that's a lot of water. Are you gonna go at all? You're good to go. Okay. And I think this is processing enough water to be about 20,000 water a minute. A bit over that, like 25,000 maybe. But there's enough stuff in here and unpackagers to get packaged water into actual water and turn that into an absurd amount of water. I'm not using the water that much yet. The only thing at the moment is for my battery factory at the top level that I made last episode. But the rest of it could be used for nuclear power, as an example. There's also this other smaller packager area that some of these containers go to. These are for the aluminum production that's up above, which I made the aluminum production before the giant grid of water. So I might phase out this at some point. And last thing to show off, if I can get it working. I need to turn that on. There we go. It's basically a massive lighting grid that I have here. And it turns everything red. Or actually, whatever color I want. So, actually, okay, let's increase the intensity of the reds now. Goodness. Also, you're gonna hear me say this a lot. I really gotta commend the devs for, like, how good this runs. There's like so many entities, so many machines, so many things going on at a time. And game still running without much issue. I can also change it to yellow, so now it looks radioactive. Actually, I think it's green. Yeah, now it's really irradiated. I usually turn it on only at night because it does cost some power, so I don't use it too much. But it was also my first attempt at using the blueprint designer to make blueprinted areas. Because there's no way you can get this walkway crossing in a normal build unless you do a lot of very particular stuff. So, using the blueprint designer, I filled in that area, and it looks nicer. Other thing is something that I call the ramp. Now, the grid is kind of blocking it a bit, but as you can see, the ramp is quite long. I can actually get on it with my zipline. It'll take me all the way to the top, swinging past everything in the grid, moving at rapid speeds in order to get to the top of the mountain nearby. This is also where I'm getting just a little bit of water here and there just for... This is like my first water-based refinement area, basically. Of course, it has been completely trumped by the grid, but I still kind of like it. Oh my goodness, this is fast. Going up to the next level is a lot of iron production, where it takes a lot of iron, turns it into iron plates, iron rods, and even screws, if you believe it or not. And well, what does these all do? Well, the screws and the iron plates... Quiet down. Well, the screws and iron plates actually get sent off to a separate factory way over here in the corner, to where these just make reinforced plates. And the reinforced plates get sent back down here, if I follow the path real quick, all the way to the modular frame production, combining reinforced plates and the rest of the... Okay, so you might have heard that trains are a little loud. So the problem is that since there's so many things in this area, there's actually like sound clipping issues. However, I've actually checked this, and this is fixed in update 8. I haven't updated my world to that yet, or like my playtime to it yet, because it's a little buggy still. But I think the recent version might be stable enough. I might try that in my next episode. But yeah, this floor is mainly dedicated to making modular frames, as well as sending screws up to the next level. That being this one, most of the screws are being sent off to make heavy modular frames. Other screws are being used to make computers, not at the moment. You know, I'll for the sake of the video. Click. So those computers specifically, if I follow the trail, get led up to the ACU production, or as I call them, the air conditioner units. They're actually adaptive control units, but I think AC unit sounds funnier. Other major section of this floor is a lot of steel production. Gets a ton of iron, ton of coal from various sources, and combines them to make steel beams and steel pipes. Steel beams get combined with concrete, making encased industrial beams, that then get sent off into the heavy modular frame production. There's also a refinement area here that turns tons of the polyresin waste from the power generators below, combines it with water that's actually coming from the ramp over there, and then that all gets converted into rubber. And I've also got a oil line that goes from somewhere beyond the mountain that also goes to the ramp, that then gets sent over to these refiners to make plastics. Most of the plastics are actually used to make... I think for the time being, I'm just going to turn off train sounds. Anyways, most of the plastics get sent off to the computer manufacturer that gets combined with the AC units, though the rest of the plastic actually gets sent off into storage, as well as a few other things. But, though I don't think that really matters. Rubber gets sent off to the storage as well, but any excess also goes above. Speaking of which, there's this absolutely huge wiring cable factory. It takes whatever copper I can scrounge around, and I'm gonna need more copper at some point. I don't know why, whatever. To make about 4,000 wire a minute, which it then combines, if I go above now, it then gets combined into this massive, weird weave of conveyor belts into tons of different constructors making cables. Cables then get sent off to make automated wiring, and a bunch of excess wire gets sent off to combine with steel pipes and make stators, which this is why I need more wire. I just don't have enough wire somehow. Why don't I have enough wire? I don't know. I think it is just because I don't have enough copper ore. But the automated wiring gets combined with the AC units to actually make those. Then there's also a manufacturer that's making modular engines. It's not making as many motors, or correction, I'm not making as many motors because I'm not making as many stators as I should. And I combine the stators with rotors in order to get motors, which are then used to make automated motors. Welcome to Satisfactory, where you make a factory that is satisfactory to your needs. What is satisfactory to your needs? That's a good question. You're gonna have to find that out for yourself. So anyways, that's the cable factory. If we go to our left, then we'll get into the actual rotor factory that's right here. I'll make a bunch of screws and make a bunch of iron rods and then combine them together in order to make the rotors. Like then get sent off up here. Thought I turned the, oh gosh. Packager, refiner, blender, smelter, where is the train? You know what? No volume. No volume now. If you're all gonna be so noisy, I'm just gonna turn you all off. Well, I could turn them all off, but I kind of want them to keep running because they look cool. Here's a mandatory intermission between times when I talk a bit too much about factories. Observe the Satisfactory from Satisfactory. So many machines getting fed so many items. Items being sent all over the place. The view of peak perfection and absolute power. You may not like it, but this is what peak performance looks like. Is what I would say if I didn't have so many stators not being made. This is getting a little annoying. Okay, I think the intermission's over. I'm gonna show off my first train station that has a crate that's just lying around. Not sure how that got there. But anyways, train gets here, drops off tons of different resources, most of which is iron, copper, and tons of bauxite. While also having a fuel container platform that also goes out there. And this train ends up about here, around where these bauxite nodes are. Fuel goes to this one tractor that goes around collecting a bunch of different iron nodes and sends them off to a station to get picked up and ends up here. And I'll just enable that so we can actually see everything working. So all of that goes towards making a bunch of aluminum. This is also where I started using the blueprint designer more because of just like copy pasting designs. I'm not exactly amazed by the design I came up with this one. Because it like feeds in water to two refineries and then feeds out water back into itself, which normally you're not supposed to do, but it's like enough to where it doesn't clog at all. However, now it's more of an issue that one of these just slightly doesn't get enough water. Even though realistically it should get the water it needs, so I don't know if I need to up it a little bit. I don't know, I'll need to like fine tune some of this. I'm even thinking about like taking apart a lot of this and trying to rebuild it, but that's a lot of work and I don't feel like doing that. Basically how this works, a bunch of water is packaged into containers that was way downstairs, and then sent all the way up here to get unpackaged into normal water, empty containers heading back into the system. All of the liquid water then gets sent off to refineries combined with bauxite to get silica and alumina solution. There's also a bunch of coal coming in that combines with the alumina solution to get aluminum scrap with water access. And here we see all of the aluminum scrap getting combined with a ton of silica in order to combine them into aluminum ingots. The silica in question is also being constructed by tons of quartz, as well as some of the excess silica that's coming from refineries. And up here is where a bunch of the aluminum ingots get split off. Most of them going towards making aluminum sheets, so I can actually make Mark V conveyor belts. But a bunch of other ones also go out to make aluminum casing. And I think it's just barely enough to where it's not getting enough ingots. I think there's like a slight silica shortage, or it might not actually be a silica shortage, it might just be that I can't get the aluminum ingots out fast enough. Yeah. But anyways, aluminum casing, aluminum sheets, that's where I get all of that. Oh yeah, and this is also where I store my radio units and what are these? Crystal oscillators. Anything excess, including the sheets, casing, silica, all get sent off to recycling. And since I just turned it on recently, a lot of this got piled up. Anyways, there's also a bunch of machinery here that combines cables from downstairs, some quartz from elsewhere, and refined plates together to make the crystal oscillators. And where the quartz is coming from for that is coming from this small line over here. It gets raw quartz and turns them into quartz crystal. All of the end result gets sent off into the production, the rest get off to recycling. But where's the raw quartz coming from? Well, this is another blueprint designer thing. It's a big road. Yeah. There's basically this truck that goes back and forth on this road. It's a singular one. It drops off a bunch of quartz that's at the other end of the road into this this area. Gets all the quartz there and sent off into the system. I think that's it with the aluminum floor. Next one's not going to take too long because it's the power storage area. Looks like I got 4 hours left to, about 4 hours left to show off the rest of the build, so I better get going. Although I guess since I'm kind of done with it, I can just turn it off for now. So now I got about 6 hours, so that's nice. Next level is well, it's just plastic. Just gonna go turn this one on too. So I think there's 76 refineries up here that's sole purpose is to make plastic. And this takes about 4,800 watts just to use, megawatts to use. I've got another train that comes through here every now and again that drops off oil, as well as some other various things. And this train was kind of interesting because I actually needed more oil than one train could handle, so I actually made 2 tracks for 2 trains. There's actually one of them. Off it goes. Although both of them only connect into one train to go into the entire base, so there's a block signal there just to stop them from colliding. But anyways, time to see a bunch of plastic going all over the place. all of this for 800 a minute? No, it wasn't. I don't think it's 800. It's like 600. Something like that. It doesn't feel like a lot. But all of the heavy oil residue that comes from making all the plastic gets sent off to these refiners to make into petroleum coke. The coke of which goes off to either storage or waste. But the main thing is that it combines with a lot of iron to create steel ingots. And I think it's making about 3,600 steel ingots a minute. And I'm just gonna go crazy. I'm gonna turn things on. This area is definitely the most power intensive. Now I have only 3 hours of power left. Where does all the plastic head off to? Well, that would be for circuit board production. Because for whatever reason I wanted to make a ton of radios. So, well, I needed to make a bunch of computers for radios. So I made a bunch of computers and I needed a ton of plastic. So I've got like 50 radios a minute coming in with using aluminum casing, oscillators, and computers from around the whole base. To get like 50 of them a minute, goodness. Was it 50 or 100? I can't remember now. Let's see, why isn't this running? Everything's full. Everything's running. Oh, I wonder if... Do I not have the waste recycler on? I don't. Okay, we'll start that back up real quick. There we go, now it's all moving. So at first I wasn't sure why I wanted to make a bunch of radios, because I wanted to make them for drones, which I kind of did actually need them, but I didn't need like all this automation for them. But basically I actually need these for turbo motors later on in the game. So I guess it's good I made that. But yeah, for now, all of the petroleum coke is just getting recycled because I have no use for it. But also got tons of wires up here being made. This whole system puts my copper wire system downstairs to shame. Using state-of-the-art super compact blueprint technology to store tons and tons of furnaces in one small area. Then I ended up placing too many, which is why not every smelter is active right now. I'll show the blueprints, I think, after the world tour, but basically all of the copper ingots get thrown into a ton of different constructors that all work towards creating copper sheets. Then the copper sheets get combined with all of the plastic to make all the circuit boards, which then go to computers, which then go to radios, which then go to turbo motors that I don't have yet. I also have a high-speed connector manufacturer here that's sole purpose is to fuel this one other supercomputer factory. I also have Caterium going with a bunch of spare copper sheets to make quick wire into some AI limiters, which I'm gonna need for like my nuclear production, so it's nice I have those, but I also have some supercomputers. And the Caterium production stand here, same super compact smelting system into a super compact constructor system too. So yeah, there's like 3 or 4 floors completely dedicated to radio units that are here. But then that brings us up to the present day where we have the floor for batteries. And I believe this production is about 300 batteries a minute, which is probably more than I'll need, but I need them for drones because I'm getting so high up, it's getting harder and harder to get items up here. Or more like it's going to cost more and more resources to get them up here in the first place, because basically drones help a lot. I got 2 drones here that bring in bauxite, and yes, I'm using batteries to fuel the drones to get the resources to make the batteries, but well, at least I know it works. But it does make like 300 batteries a minute, and I have enough battery stockpile that those just keep running for as long as they have batteries. There's another drone port back here that brings in sulfur that goes into all of these refineries that turns into sulfuric acid, gets combined with alumina solution and casing to make the batteries, and all of the water byproducts get sent off to these other refineries over here, and these basically just convert all of the water combining it into limestone, turn it into concrete. Nothing's working at the moment, mostly because I am full on batteries, although they'll probably change when I get into nuclear power. So where am I getting the water from here? Well, using the grid, which is also what I made in the last episode. So just kind of showing it off, there's power connected to almost every section of the grid. That way I can just kind of fly around a bit. I basically made this as a gigantic garage for future train stuff. But I've also got this huge unpackaging area that just turns bottled water into water that can then be sent off into my factory. Let's see if we can catch the train real quick before it leaves without me. And then we'll go see, we're gonna go check out the water extraction area. We are approaching it right now. So, welcome to the water production facility where there's tons of water to be extracted. And I'm fine, perfectly fine. Didn't open up Steam or anything. I believe there's 120 extractors. Let's see, there's about 6.5. 2 of these are running at half power. 3, 4, 12 times 4 times 4. 192. So how it works is that I have 2 trains here that send off containers. There's none here at the moment or whatever. But containers go to the packagers. Ooh, we can catch one right now. There goes the packaging packagers. They then turn into water bottles that get sent back into the water trains instead and sent back to the base. Are there any trains here yet? No. Oh well. At some point I need to really put in like a hypertube system to get back and forth without walking. And that looks just so cool. Whoa. This definitely makes me wonder how big this whole construction will go. Like whenever I get like past nuclear, getting into the end game stuff. So whenever water container trains get back here, they unload the water that gets sent up to all of this. I'm gonna call it the bottle highway. That's what it is. but ends up around here and gets distributed to tons of different unpackagers. And not all of it's hooked up for water yet, mostly because it's just too much. So I just have these two unpackagers set at the moment. But like I said, this whole system here has a capacity of like 25,000 water a minute, so that's reliable. I've also got a very silly and annoyingly complicated way of getting the packages back to their packaging trains. But this whole system works out really, really well. I like it a lot. So I think that's like the major stuff. Everything that's outside of the base is pretty much just random train stations to get items back here. They're not very well designed. I mean, you could probably, if I zoom in... Oh yeah, there's one way over there that has the oil. And that's where this is, over here near the cliff. But there's not enough oil here, so I have another train that goes to some other area back here to get oil, to then transport up. So I think that's like kind of about it. I think just to finish this all off, I'm gonna make sure everything's running. Okay, so with every single floor running as fast as it can, about 20,000 megawatts is being consumed, but there's about 40 megawatts that could be consumed. Does that mean I'm just being inefficient? Probably, but I'd rather have some time instead of just 2 hours left. So I went from having like 6 hours of power left to turn it on a few more things to having 3 hours, and now I have only 2 left. It's even less now. I guess last thing, I do have some stuff for supercomputers and AC units to make assembly directors, and those are getting slowly sent off to the space elevator. Okay, so with everything running as fast as it can, I am making about 1,000,005 tickets a minute. Actually, no, at peak I was making 2.5 million tickets a minute, and it's trailing off. And I believe I actually store all of my tickets in here. It's not a lot. I mean, 150 isn't anything to scoff at, but I feel like there should have been more. Oh well. Last things I need to get done. I need to get a hazmat suit and last couple things. But I don't want to get into this stuff yet until I get after nuclear power. If I go to the MAM, about everything is done. I just need to get sulfur and deuterium stuff done, which I could probably just do on a whim. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. The world itself has been running for 343 hours. And I've been playing on and off for about 8 months now? 9? It's close to a year at this point. Okay, how long do I have left? Okay, I still got about an hour and a half, maybe. Since you stayed around for so long, I'm gonna show you a bunch of my blueprints. Clear that. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Well, I just had a crash. Didn't lose any progress, cause... so does this happen every time I clear it? Oh, it's every... Yes, that is a consistent bug. Interesting. I've had a few of these happen with the blueprint designer. I'm not sure what that's all about. I think as long as I just clear out everything, it should work. Okay, I should be able to actually show stuff off now. First thing, the Super Smelter Foundation Formation 14. It is basically 14 smelters in a blueprint. Now you could probably fit more in, but I've kind of made mine in a way that I have a platform on top. Mostly I could fit more conveyor belts underneath, as well as having cabling underneath it as well. Something I am really proud of, though, is that almost none of it is clipping, except for that. This is almost to a point that even the cabling doesn't collide with anything. Like, I don't know why I do this. And all of these 14 is split into a 5, 6, and 3 splitter, where the 3 in the middle don't actually go to the ones in the direct middle. They actually go into these 3 in front, and then splitters on the sides actually go towards the outer 2 smelters. And just to kind of show it off, I don't have this powered. I mean, that makes sense. my game crashed and my last save was about a few minutes ago. Okay, let's try this again. We can actually see all the items going through, getting sent to all the different smelters, all of the ingots getting sent around as well. But with how this is, you can have like 3 Mark V conveyor belts going through, and it works fairly well. I think one issue that I actually have fixed here is since the top conveyor belt doesn't have much to split off of, I have an overflow that goes into a different thing to kind of help get some resources back in to get it to work again. But yeah, that's the Smelter 14 formation, and apparently clearing that's fine. I've also got a 25 battery thing that requires way more wire than I have, as well as modular frames. But that's how I was able to place so many of those power storage units really quickly. Blueprint Designer saves way too much time. I've also got a 12 constructor blueprint, kind of like the smeltery blueprint. And they're supposed to actually work together, because they've got 3 lanes as well, and 3 exit lanes. They actually work pretty well. Of course, it's not 14 to 12, it's whatever. But it does help with, man, I just need a bunch of stuff getting smelted, so I just make the constructors, make the smelter that works really, really nicely. Same thing goes for, oh, I don't, Okay, okay, I do have some mod frames here. Load, foundry, aluminum. There we go. Kind of a similar deal, although I might need to remake this, but it does work. It has like 6 foundries in it. It has 2 lanes in the middle that get separated out into the foundries, and it all merges into 1 lane. And that's what I used in the aluminum ingot production. There's also the plastic production area. It doesn't have any inputs, but it does have outputs already made. It gets all of these solids and liquid outputs all into 1 lane, and it's really easy to just, actually, I think I might need to change this so that there's something at the end here, but that's fine. So that's how I got the plastic area hooked up. I also have train presets, so I can actually set up like a whole ramped area for my trains. Another example, this one has a 2-lane setup. Also try to have like a design on the side of them. I'm not 100% sure on it, but they are kind of cool. And I think last one is the packager. This is the one I had up for a moment ago, so bam, or the unpackaging. This is specifically for unpackaging stuff. There's 1 lane in the middle, but there's enough room and enough scalability with conveyor belt poles that, I mean, you can get whatever the hell I got up there on the grid. Well, I think that's just going to end the world tour. Like I mentioned, there is other stuff out there, but honestly, yeah, there's not much of a reason to really look into them. It's not much. It's not that interesting. And as for what I'm getting into next is going to be nuclear power, because I need some more power to run my facility, so nuclear power is what I'm going to need. So if you want to see how that goes, check out my next Satisfactory episode. Whenever I get that out, I have no idea when I actually will. I did give myself like a month-long break just to not play Satisfactory, because I think it got to a point where I just spent way too much time on making the whole factory thing, and I just needed to figure out how to best spend my time instead of doing it badly. As in, like, I want to work towards getting more of these videos out, because recently I got 100 subscribers. That's pretty cool. Now, what would be really cool is if I could actually get, like, ad revenue from this little hobby. The best way I can get ad revenue is if I get subscribers. So I gotta make some good videos so that people will subscribe to me so I can get some amount of money out of this. That'd be kind of neat. I'll probably go into more details on like my future plans in my next State of Dean video whenever I get that out. That might be like a couple weeks from now or something like that. But if you would like to see what a 20x20 Satisfactory world looks like, look no further than me. I'm the one that's doing that.
I'm an aspiring video editor. I want to edit videos. So I will make the really cool stuff, and then you will watch them, and then I will make better ones, and then you will watch those.
Maybe. I don't know how this transaction goes very well. Again, I'll probably talk more about this in my State of Dean whenever I get around to it. But, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it at least some amount, and you all have a good night.